If you think Mary being sinless is a stretch, wait until you find out that she was assumed into heaven. I know, it sounds unbelievable, like it has no biblical backing, but it happened. The idea of her assumption isn't actually that far-fetched. Just like Elijah was taken up in a whirlwind and Enoch was walking with God then was no more, so Mary was also assumed into heaven. But then again, we know of Elijah and Enoch because it's clearly written in scripture, and the assumption of Mary isn't. But all throughout the Bible, there's always been types of things. Jonah in the whale for 3 days was a type of Jesus and his resurrection 3 days later. Have you ever wondered what Enoch's assumption was a type of? Such a random inclusion and doesn't quite fit Jesus. Also, the woman in Revelations 12 is Mary, and that's important because in it, the dragon pursued the woman but never succeeded as she was given wings to fly to a place where she'd be nourished by God in the wilderness, which are all symbols of God's grace and heaven. Mary was full of grace and did not sin because of God's doing and her acceptance, which symbolically sounds a lot like God giving wings and her flying, which is accepting and cooperating with that gift. Let's look beyond the Bible though. Just because Mary's assumption isn't explicitly written in scripture doesn't mean it didn't happen. We need to consider all things like archaeology and history. I'm not even going to talk about the church fathers, that could be an entirely different thing. But archaeologically, you might do a quick search and find that we actually have a tomb of Mary. Two actually, one in Jerusalem and one in Ephesus. But if you go there though, you'll notice something. No body, no relics, no trace of Mary. And that's important, very important, because early Christians would go mad over relics. They'd always gather them like bones of saints, as they believed them to be vessels of God's power, like Elisha's bones raising a dead man to life. You would think that they would do the same for the mother of Jesus. And by the way, the assumption of Mary into heaven doesn't actually mean that she didn't die. Catholic teaching hasn't exactly defined that, and is actually open to the possibility of her dying, as she emulated the life and death of Jesus so closely. It was out of her consent. What do you think about all of this though? Is this a stretch, or did it actually happen?